workshop. I'm super excited. I have some really cool stuff to talk about today. Give me just a minute. I want to hop in to make sure I'm broadcasting in the right places. So I am using Be Live Studio, which I love. It's amazing. But I can't see from it where I am broadcasting, so I have to go to Facebook. And I'm just putting this in the Quit Your Job in 90 Days group right now. Also, we'll be on YouTube, and then it goes from there to LinkedIn. So if you are watching live, any comments you make, if you are coming from Facebook, I will not be able to see your name, which makes things very confusing for me because it just shows like a bunch of comments that come in. And I don't even know if it's the same person. So I'm going to drop a link. If I can find it. I'm going to drop a link in the comments. So if you can click on that, basically it's just permission for, they changed it because I guess Be Live can't access names, and there we go. They can't access like names and profile pictures and things like that from Facebook unless you give them permission to do so. So I'm going to post a link in the live. So if you want to participate and comment that way, if you click on the link, I'll be able to see your name in the comments and makes things a little bit easier for me. Okay, so hopes one more place. Let me check on YouTube. Wait. Okay, sorry. Okay, so let's get started. So today we're going to talk about essentially purpose-driven work and how that relates to income generation. Now, before I dive into that, I want to talk about a daily activity that we want to do every single day throughout the entire workshop. It's called your daily purpose. This is something that I do every single day. And it's something that's going to, I mean, in the long run, it helps you in so many different areas, but with income generation in particular, this is how I started it. And it's super helpful. So what we're going to do is a daily purpose, basically like a daily task list, right? So every single day for the next 7 days or the rest of your life, however long you want to do this for, I want you to take 3 to 5 items, okay? Write down 3 to 5 items that lead directly to income generation. So, and these are going to be in order of effect, okay? Not in order of, you know, the thing that I want to do at 9 a.m. and then, you know, 12 p.m. and then 3 p.m. These are in order of effect as it relates to your goals, okay? So 3 to 5 items that lead directly to income generation in order of priority, essentially. And it's not necessarily the priority that you think. You have to really get focused on what are those items that are actually going to generate income in the most direct way. Now, I don't know you. I don't know your goals. I don't know your business or your clients without speaking to you directly. I don't know what that looks like for you. So you have to come up with these items and you have to be really honest with yourself about it, right? Because there are so many activities that we really enjoy doing that don't really relate directly to income generation. So one thing for me that used to come up all the time, I came from an IT space and I'm really comfortable doing work in IT. I'm also really comfortable with writing. Anything that's like an introverted activity that has some tech aspect to it, that's what I want to be doing. So I would want to write down, in this case, you know, I want to work on my website. I have to get my website launched. Okay, but how does that relate to income generation today or tomorrow? Now we're looking at short-term and long-term goals, okay? We do want to, you know, say you want to get your website up because you want to launch a specific product and you are working on generating web traffic. And that's kind of the channel that you're going through. You're going to be funneling them through your website. So you need to get the website up in order to do that. Well, are you going to do it? First of all, is it going to be done tomorrow? Or is this something that's, you know, you're looking at like a 2-month timeline? Do you need the website for it today? what are the other activities that lead more directly to generating income besides working on your website? Because honestly, in almost every case, working on your website is not going to bring money in the door. I've had so many websites over so many years, and even in the e-commerce space, it's not really a website, an income generating activity until it is. So all of this sudden one day, it becomes something that you genuinely need because you genuinely need to support online sales. And there are so many other things that happen before we get there. So just try not to get caught up in the activities that aren't really focused and prioritized, that lead directly to income generation, right? So you really want to think about what's going to bring money in the door today, what's going to bring money in the door next week and next month, and then order those activities in order of effect. So how they relate most directly to your goals. What are the things that are going to get you the farthest toward reaching your goals, right? Now we want to do this in an Eat the Frog way. So Eat the Frog it's actually a book that I've never read before, but I've heard this so many times, and I guess I should probably read it because I've recommended it to other people. Eat the Frog essentially means you just kind of get it over with, right? Like you get through the things that you don't want to do. I don't want to get up in the morning and eat a frog. I mean, actually, honestly, I probably would. I eat weird foods, but most people don't want to get up in the morning and eat a frog. It just doesn't sound appealing, right? I'd rather, get up and eat the donut. Well, the donut for me would be like working on my website. Eat the Frog for me would be like lead generation activities, talking to people, like doing things that, you really need to do to generate income, right? And you have to be very direct and very focused about it. So that's the kind of stuff that tends to make us feel a little bit uncomfortable. And that's why we put those things first. That's why we do those things first, right? So when I get up now, I've been doing this for about a year, almost a year now, every single day. And I now have no issue getting up and tackling the most uncomfortable thing that is on my daily purpose list, just to eat the frog. And it feels amazing when you get that one thing done. It's the first thing that you get done during the day. Now, sometimes you can't, sometimes you kind of have to schedule stuff, like if you are intimidated by doing phone calls, right? Having sales calls or live videos, things like that. You might have to kind of time them out, but you can put it at the top of your list anyway. Now, so do this every single day, 3 to 5 activities. You want to make sure that you are committed to them, right? So go back to that list, stay focused on that list. You will find that this activity brings up other stuff, right? Kind of like how we have 30 tabs open at once. You start with the one tab that's like, oh, I have to do this thing. And then you're like, oh, I got to look this up. And then, oh, I got to put that on my website. So I got to work on that. And we tend to kind of like end up in 50 other different directions. So always go back to this list and focus on it, stay focused on it. What I find helps here is doing a power hour. So giving yourself basically a deadline to complete something that's reasonable. If I want to write a blog post or something, I can get it done in an hour. If I sit down and start researching 100,000 other things and jump into other activities, it's going to take me, 3 days to get it done because I'm getting distracted. So if I give myself a power hour, and that's like a deadline, I have to have it done by the end of this hour, right? So it helps you kind of stay focused. Now, as you do this every day, I don't know that this will come up within a week for you. It might. For me, when I started this activity, within a few days, I started to notice where the resistance was. So, and this is really kind of probably what draws you to this type of workshop, right? The Income Accelerator workshop. In some areas, you're thinking that you need help with income generation. Probably what's happening is that you are resisting certain activities that you already know you need to do in order to generate income. So part of our work here is to figure out what those things are that you are resisting. I can't sit here and tell you exactly what to do. And again, like without, speaking to you directly and knowing exactly what your business is and who your clients are, and really going through and like diving into your packages and all of that. I can't tell you exactly what to do. You have to figure that out for yourself. And throughout the life of your business, you're always going to run into things that you're resisting, and you're going to have to figure this stuff out. So through this activity, keep your eyes open for items that you are resisting. So anything that you kind of know you need to do, and you might even resist writing it down on the list, and kind of you tend to tell yourself stories. So maybe, okay, I need to get on the phone with somebody, or whatever the activity might be. Like you need to get on the phone with a person that owes you money or something like that. And also, just to kind of reframe this, these income generating activities, they don't have to be directly related to your business. For the purpose of this workshop, we're literally just talking about income acceleration, but there are so many different forms of that. And a big part of what we're working on is overcoming resistance to receiving money, right? So it's not all just about your business. This affects multiple areas of your life. So if there's an area where you can attract money into your life, or you can generate income that isn't necessarily what's directly related to your niche business, you can, absolutely use those activities, or write those activities down on your daily purpose list. Anything that generates income, or whatever your goals were in joining this workshop, right? So if you're looking for cash injection, like I need money by next week to pay whatever, think outside of the box of your business and say, okay, I have this rebate I haven't applied for, or whatever it might be. And, put those items on your list, like make those a priority, right? So yeah, so resistance, you'll start to find these things come up that you like. You don't want to write them down because that's a commitment, right? The second you write it down, I want you to actually physically write them down, like pen and paper, not typing, not putting them in your phone, like actually write them down. It's gonna commit them to your memory and your brain. It's actually a physical process. So I want you to actually physically write it down. You'll find the things that you're resisting. Maybe you don't write them down, maybe you write them down and then you come up with excuses for why you're not getting them done. And you will start to tell yourself stories. So you need to really challenge those stories. We'll dive into that a little bit more later in the workshop, but what stories are you telling yourself that are basically justifying you not completing these activities, you resisting these activities, right? I'll give you an example. When I started doing this, I discovered that I was resisting invoicing, which probably sounds crazy, but I would have like clients waiting for an invoice. I've actually had people ask me like, hey, can you send me that invoice? Like they're pursuing me to pay me, right? And I would just avoid this invoicing activity. And it's not like a technology thing. It's not, I can create an invoice from my phone. If I wanted to like do it competitively, I could probably do one right now in under 10 seconds. It's not a hard thing to do. And a lot of times it was for work that I'd already completed. When I, earlier, like a year, or even, well, probably longer than a year ago, I used to invoice people after completing work. So, I had no excuse to not be doing this, and I found that I was resisting it. And through that, kind of discovering that, wow, like I'm resisting this. This is easy money. I just need to go collect it. I just need to go ask for it. I found that I was uncomfortable asking for money. And I was able to connect that resistance to this idea that asking for money was also asking for support, right? So it felt to me like if I'm asking you for money by invoicing you, I'm asking you for help. I'm asking you for support. And I'm like a staunchly independent, I don't need your help kind of person. So I was really resistant to that. So I had to really challenge that belief, look at what I was resisting, figure out what the story was behind it, and then challenge that story, because the story wasn't true. I wasn't asking anybody for help. it was telling them to pay me for work that I had already actually done. So the story wasn't true. And I didn't even know that it existed until I started writing this stuff down and finding that I was resisting it, right? So, yeah, okay, so we're going to do that every single day. Your daily purpose, I want you to write it down. I actually have a like a printout for this for you, and I don't know if it went out. I just got an email from MailChimp today, this morning, that I haven't looked at yet, but it's basically like 13 steps I have to go through to regain access to my account. So I will jump in there after I get off the call and check to see if if those emails are actually going out. So if you've already received it, you know, you can print it out and walk through it that way. If you haven't, I will get it to you. I swear. And if you haven't actually signed up for the workshop, you wouldn't have received it. So I can drop a link in the comments if you want to sign up, and I'll get that sent out to you. So it's daily purpose. We're going to do that every single day. I encourage you to do it like every day forever. But through the workshop, you know, let's do it every day before each call, or before you know, if you're watching the recording, just have that done before you jump on the call. I actually like to do the daily purpose the night before. So it kind of helps me set up my next day. So I'll look at, you know, okay, tomorrow, these are the, you know, 3 things, 5 things, whatever, that I know I need to take. These are the steps I know I need to take to really move myself forward. So I write them down the night before. It helps me feel like I'm ready for the next day, and I kind of wake up like ready to go. And I'm already kind of committed to it. And for some reason, I thought writing it down the night before would create more anxiety around the activities that I didn't want to do. Kind of like if you know you have to give a speech tomorrow, or you have to like go to court or something that you just like really don't want to do, you know, you kind of feel anxious about it. But for some reason, for me anyway, it works the opposite, where I write them down, I kind of get them out. It feels like I've already accomplished something just by writing it down. And the next day I'm just ready to tackle them. So that's what works for me. And again, if you haven't signed up for the workshop and you want the printout for that, I'll drop a link in the comments to sign up, and then you will get an email. I'm actually going to do that right now. Okay. Sign up link for activity downloads. Okay, now we are going to jump into the day 2 training, and this is all about purpose-driven work. Now, this is an income accelerator workshop, so we're talking about generating income. We're talking about income acceleration. How does purpose-driven work relate to that? And we're going to be talking about a lot of kind of mindset stuff and foundational stuff that doesn't necessarily feel like it's directly tied to income, but it 9,000% is. You have to have the core foundational elements of your business set in order to generate income on a long-term, like sustainable growth in a you know, consistent pattern, right? Now, there are always activities that you can take right now without even examining this core stuff, that you can, you know, inject cash basically into your business. And that's really what the daily purpose stuff is for. So we're going to look at that every single day. Like, what can I do today? What can I do today to get a sale today? Who can I talk to today? Who can I follow up with? What can I do right now to get money in the door right now? But also we need to examine those larger issues. Why don't I have this consistent income already? And what can I do from a foundational aspect to set myself up to receive this income on a regular basis? So today we're talking about purpose-driven work. There are a lot of reasons why I believe that you need to connect your passions and your purpose, however that feels to you. I mean, it could just be like the things that you're really good at, the things that you've learned how to do, the things that you were just naturally born ready to do. You could look at it as like your divine purpose, whatever that is, whatever feels good for you. You need to have passion behind your work in order to create something that is truly sustainable. There are some people who are very disciplined and very committed and could really dive into something that they just don't care about. and work at that every single day for their entire lives and become, financially successful through that. But personally, I need to have some kind of connection to something to really, really genuinely be committed to it. And I think right now is a really good time to challenge that idea and kind of examine that belief, because we're seeing that no matter how much discipline and commitment you have, your priorities are always, at the end of the day, when it really comes down to it, your priorities are going to lie with your purpose. So in a very extreme way, right now, we're seeing this in action. So I've talked a lot about in the past, the job stability myth, right? And how people tend to not leave their jobs because their jobs, they believe, are more stable than, a business or self-employment. And we're really kind of seeing that, what that means right now, again, in a very extreme way. But so, okay, one example. I've been noticing this a lot recently. We have these two different sects of healthcare right now, nurses in particular. I have a lot of friends who are nurses. And there's the one side that is working like insane hours, crazy shifts. They're just getting up every day, half of them are like sleeping at work, basically. Like this is just what they live and breathe right now. And it's stressful and they're really tired, but they are really proud of what they're doing and they're not scared to do it. It's insanely impressive. A lot of these people have like families and children, and it's not that they aren't scared, like they're working on the front lines, and a lot of them are really scared to, like, I'm directly exposing myself to an illness that I could bring home to my family. That's really scary. But they're going out there and they're doing it every single day, and they're not like even complaining. I mean, it's incredible the amount of strength that they have and what they're putting into this. And then there's this other area, this other sect of healthcare, and there's nothing wrong with this, but there are people who got into this industry because they wanted income stability. They wanted a job in a stable industry. Clearly, the medical industry is always, as long as humans exist, it's always going to be, we're always going to have very high demand for healthcare workers. So it's a very stable industry to be in. And that's really what drove them to get into this. And these are the people who want hazard pay. These are the people who want to go home. These are the people who want, more enforcement for reasonable shift hours and things like that, where we have other people who are like staying longer than they're even supposed to, and not, looking for extra pay. They just want to be there. Like, this is their purpose-driven work. This is genuinely their passion. I know people who like spent so much time working towards this, and honestly, if they could do it in a way where they didn't have to even require payment for it or something, like say they were just financially set and they didn't need any income, they'd still be doing this work, right? These are the people who have this purpose-driven, this passion behind their work, and they're the ones who are sustaining right now. And the people who just kind of went out and got a job, like, they're still going. I think a lot of it is more of a social stigma than anything. Like, if you're a nurse right now and you quit, people are like, what are you doing? We need you. I think in some cases that's kind of what we're seeing. Like, they're just kind of shamed into continuing this job that they have no passion behind, because now they've been forced to examine what their true passions are, what their true purpose is, right? And maybe that's not it. So there's a real importance to finding purpose-driven work. And when you really find what that is, the cool thing is it's pretty fluid, right? So we're going to talk about niching down, which is really important, but I think a lot of people resist niching down because they don't want to commit to one very specific thing 100% because they're not entirely sure what their purpose is or what their passion is, which is totally fine. I don't think any of us really find it until we start working toward it. So basically the idea here is to make sure that you're kind of heading in the right direction. Find the things that find your core beliefs, find your, natural skills and abilities, your passions, and the things that you're just, naturally good at. And find what that general area is, and then dive into a niche on that. And then as you need to adjust it, as you move along, that's totally fine. I've changed mine 100 times, but it just keeps getting more and more specific and closer to exactly what I know I should be doing and I'm passionate about. And as I have made those shifts, I have gotten up earlier in the morning. I have been way more driven. I mean, the closer I get to that, right, the more driven I am to create success in my business, because it's not just about income generation anymore. It's also about serving the purpose of my life, right? So there's just this immense amount of motivation that never goes away when you really start to connect with that purpose. And again, I say start to connect because you're going to keep shifting, and that's totally fine over time. So right now we're going to focus on niching down, like finding what that purpose is and then niching down as much as possible. And then you can always shift as you go along. So this is something that people who are still working full time and have no clue what they want to do, this is something that's going to be helpful to you. So you can kind of try to find, what that's going to look like. For people who are already working in their business full time, this is also something that you want to go through. This is an activity that you want to go through, because it's something that you want to re-examine on a regular basis. Just make sure that you're on the right path, that you have the right foundation set, that you aren't spending your time in too many different areas. So that has a huge effect on your income, by the way. If you have too many different products, no real clarity on who your market is, who your target is, what exactly it is that you're offering, that's going to have a significant effect on your income and your time. The ultimate goal is to spend the least amount of time making the most amount of money possible. So niching down is a huge part of that. So essentially what this looks like, if you don't niche down, you're kind of throwing products at a wide audience, right? And it's a crapshoot. Like, so imagine there's, 300 people in front of you and you just start throwing carrots out. Like maybe 2 people want carrots, but they're like, one's over here and one's over here, and you're kind of scattering them. So they might not even see the carrot, right? It's a crapshoot. So the more niche down you are, the more appealing your product is going to be to the right people. So if you niche down to, rather than being like someone who delivers produce, you're now delivering carrots, like the best carrots ever, you are going to attract the people who want the carrots. And then the entire audience in front of you is going to be people who want carrots. So when you throw them out, they're going to be like, oh my God, give me the carrot. I guess that's kind of a weird example, but I think you get the idea. So when that happens too, you become known as an authority in your niche. So a lot of us are in very competitive niches, right? You could be in, I don't know, graphic design or like web design, and there are so many people who are doing this, right? Maybe you're an accountant. There are like a bajillion accountants out there. How can you niche down in a way that you're really focused on what you are genuinely good at, something very specific that you deliver to specific people who are looking for that specifically. And then you become known as an authority in that particular field. And you don't become necessarily known as an authority. So you don't necessarily become known as an authority in carrots. You're now like the produce person, even though you're focused on the carrots. You build this authority, you build this audience, and then when something else comes up that's related, you're still the go-to, right? You've basically created a space for yourself in a competitive market where you're unique. And now you're the name that comes up when people think of produce. They're like, oh, that carrot girl. She has the best carrots, right? That's what happens. So in order to do that, in order to niche down, you have to be authentic and honest about what you truly want. And you have to believe in yourself. So to go through an activity here, if you are, even if you're already niched down or whatever, or you have no clue what you want to do, I want you to take a few minutes to write down 3 things. 1, your work and your education experience. This is a lot less important than you think, but basically like a resume, right? So if you were going to go apply for a job today, just go through and list, your work experience, your educational experience, like basically what you would write on a resume. And then 2, so you can do these in columns or you can do it, separate pages, however you want to do it. I want you to be able to look at them kind of side by side. I also have a worksheet for this too. So if you sign up for the workshop, I'll make sure that you get that. The second column, we want to look at your natural skills and abilities. So what this looks like is it's just basically anything you're plain good at. And I want you to really free write here. Like cracking an egg with one hand is something I'm really good at. I would write that down. Helping people feel better about themselves. Like really dig in with this and ask your family and friends for insight. You'd be really surprised at what you're naturally good at. We'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. And then the third column, I want you to focus on your passions. So in order to find these, now is an amazing time to do that because we're all kind of forced to be in this quiet space, right? We're forced to, right now, reflect and kind of go inward. And this is an excellent time to examine what your genuine passions are. So some questions I would ask here would be, what did you love to do as a child or as a teenager, right? So like you're 15 and you're kind of stuck in your room, you can't drive, you don't have a job. Like, what did you do? What did you do on the weekends? What did you really like to do? And a lot of people kind of go into like artistic mode on this, but just write down all of those things that you like to do as a child. If you had a free, day, month, year, whatever, to do anything that you wanted to do. So if you could do anything you wanted to do right now, money's not an issue. What would you do? A lot of us are going to go into like, I'd go on vacation, whatever. But write that down. That's totally related to passions, even if it's not specific to the work that you're going to do. If that is something that you genuinely want in your life, it's something that you can connect to your goals. And that's going to help you down the road when we start to look at packaging and how you deliver your services. We want to relate that to your goals. So if you want to be sitting on the beach in Mexico, it's totally possible. We can do that. We can make that a goal and we can connect the way you deliver your services to that. So basically you can do it remotely. Essentially, that's what that looks like. And you have enough income to be able to support that type of lifestyle, right? Another question, if you were given whatever amount of money to donate to a charity of your choice, or not even necessarily like an organized charity, but if you were just given a bunch of money, but you had to donate it, what would you choose? And with all of these questions, write down, if you have multiple answers, write those down too. And then kind of going back to, what you like to do as a child, what areas did you spend more time on than others, even when they weren't necessarily going to help you advance or generate income? So for me, this comes up as conversations that I have with people, basically areas that I get into that are not necessarily related to the conversation or don't necessarily benefit me in any way. That really helps me to identify what my passions are, what my purpose-driven work is, because I work with people. And I found that when I started to examine this, I found that, I have a lot of conversations with people about what their passions are, right? What their goals are. And I've always, since I was like a kid, I've always been in this space where I want to encourage people to do things that I believe in them. I believe that they have this talent and this purpose and this drive. And I believe that they can really kind of change things, like change the world with it. And they should go for those big things. A big part of my passion is, helping other people believe in themselves, figure out what their areas of passion are, and like dive into it and go do that work. It's always been like this. Like this is me at, parties as a teenager, like 16, sitting off to the side of the party talking to somebody about how good they are at something and how they should like create a business and do all this really cool stuff and whatever. That's me. So, oops. So when you think about having conversations with people, or really, I guess this kind of works with any activity, what areas do you spend more time on than you should? So like, these are things for me where I would get sidetracked in conversations and, really kind of like dive down that hole, and I'd be like working a corporate job, but I'd be on the phone with somebody. And the second we got onto, some specific subject, like now we're having this conversation, I'm not getting paid for, like, this is not my job. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm probably wasting company time, but it's something that I'm really passionate about. Really diving in and helping people solve specific problems. And it's outside of the scope of my job or what this company is offering, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm spending too much time on it. So where do you spend too much time on things in general? And then I really like this one. So if you had to go live on video, especially if that's something that kind of intimidates you, or say you had to get on stage and talk, essentially you are being put on the spot to speak about something, and you have no notes, no preparation. You don't really have any like materials to support you, right? You just have to go do it like now. So, or maybe you have like 10 minutes, right? What would you be talking about? Like if you absolutely had to do this right now, what would you pick to talk about? That's a really key indicator on what you're passionate about. And sometimes stuff comes up that has nothing to do with the work that you're doing. Now, we do need to be careful because we can be passionate about a lot of different things. And in some cases, you can't really combine those things. Like I have a few different passion areas that have turned, they're more hobbies because they're just not really related to like the purpose-driven work that I do. And there's no real way to incorporate them. But the cool thing is I have found over time that no matter how unrelated those things are, they tend to come together. If you're really working toward your passion area and then you really start to work in that area and you're really being honest and authentic and genuine as you do that, the other things that you're passionate about, somehow they just start to connect to what you're doing. It's absolutely incredible. For me, that has looked like finding clients who share other areas of interest of mine, and in very serendipitous ways. It's absolutely incredible. But anyway, so with this, basically the idea is to write all of this stuff down and to find the areas where they overlap, right? So somewhere in there is your zone of genius. There's something in there that's work that doesn't feel like work. And the idea is to capitalize on your innate abilities so you never cease to find inspiration. This is stuff that you're passionate about. It's stuff that you're just naturally really good at. And so you're combining your skill and your passion, and then basically you found your niche, right? So yeah, we're going to combine all of those areas. The monetization process is, it's tough to kind of generalize. So basically I try to look at, when I'm working with a client, I look at the individual list and we kind of go over it together and we figure out different ways to monetize something that they're very passionate about. And there are some very creative ways to do it. Like if your purpose is to save the elephants, but you're a writer, there is a way to connect those two things and monetize it and actually become very successful financially. But it's such an individual kind of thing. So the idea of this activity is to take those three columns, find out where they overlap, and then start to figure out ways that you can get really specific on something and monetize it. What can you offer? What can you deliver that people would want to pay for, right? And don't inject your own beliefs here. Like, don't look at something and say, like, nobody would ever pay for this. There's a way to make this happen. Market research is a big part of it, and we're going to go into that in more detail later on in the workshop. But basically, market research is just kind of reaching out to potentially your ideal clients and asking what their needs are, what kinds of things that they're looking for, and then you can use that information to frame your, your package and your offer around. It's also really useful for marketing. So like if you do, and market research, I'm going off on a tangent now, but market research is huge right now because everyone has time. So like larger corporations and CEOs and people that you'd really want to talk to and get insight from, who are usually really busy in general, are not as busy right now, and their industry is changing so much that you reaching out and asking these questions really kind of drives up your visibility too. People really, I've been noticing this with other clients, like when you reach out and you're asking for market research, people are very appreciative of that right now, and you're going to get a lot of really valuable feedback. So one more activity, kind of am doing this out of order, but one more activity I want you to do in the passion area is to interview other people in your life. So in this interview, we're going to be looking for basically insight on what your areas of passion are, what your innate skills and abilities are, and then different ways to believe in yourself, because this is a really important part of this. You have to believe in yourself in order to really create and define this niche and then become successful in it, right? So when you're interviewing somebody, a few questions that you can ask: what would you say are my most valuable qualities? And this could be, I mean, it could be somebody that you're close to. It could be somebody that you've worked with. I recommend that you do this with at least 5 people. So if you can pick 5 people in different areas, that would be awesome. I would go through and probably ask maybe my sister, a boss that I used to work with that I, still like kind of use as a resource all the time for everything and really trust his opinion. I would probably go to him, family members, friends, people that you maybe see on a regular basis, and maybe people you don't really know that well either, right? So like I could jump in this group and ask other people, what do you think are my most valuable qualities? And your feedback would be extremely useful to me, because you're going to tell me things that I don't see about myself. And you're also going to tell me things that probably my family doesn't see, because they don't work with me they don't see me the same way, and they don't work with me the same way. So, so get at least 5 people, but try to get them in different areas, right? So what would you say are my most valuable qualities? If you were to ask me for help or advice on something, what would it be? And what do you think are my goals in life? Now, through the answers to these questions, really try to dive in and get as much insight as you can from them, and encourage them to be honest, right? Like, don't answer these questions in a way that caters to my feelings, especially if you're, somebody who's really close to you, like a family member or something. Really think about it and be honest and answer these questions. And then as stuff comes up, if you're curious about it, or it's not something that you really thought would come up, then ask them more questions, right? Just kind of feed off of that. So what this is going to do is give you some more insight on your innate abilities, your passions, and also help you with that process of believing in yourself, so you can move forward with a particular niche, and you can be comfortable with your pricing and your packaging and your offer. Believing in yourself is extremely important. If you do not believe in yourself, you will not move forward. You will not generate income. You will. I mean, you can kind of go through the motions and do activities to bring money in, but it's not going to be sustainable. So one other activity I'd like you to try, and this is another daily thing. You can do it right with your daily, as you start your daily purpose. You can even actually make this so your daily list for today or tomorrow, you could add this to it. Create daily affirmations. Affirmations are basically just positive things that you're confirming about yourself. So doing the interview first might be useful, because you're going to get some positive feedback. People are going to tell you you're really good at something, or whatever it might be. So a daily affirmation, for me, what it looks like is I would look in the mirror and say to myself, you are, right? So in this case, we're doing an Income Accelerator workshop. There are probably some people who are facing difficulties around receiving money. So you are worthy. would be a good one. Or more specifically, you are worthy of receiving money. You are capable of generating income, right? You can tie them directly to your goals. So, what do you need to believe about yourself in order to hit your goals? So first of all, what are your goals? What are your goals through this workshop? Be specific about it. What are your goals for the next month, 6 months, a quarter, year, 5 years from now, whatever? What are those goals? And what do you need to believe about yourself in order to reach those goals? Create daily affirmations around that. Okay. And then 2 more things. Yes, we have about, okay. 2 more things I want to go over. One is to check your network. So again, this is like foundational core aspects of income generation. Your network is your environment. Right now, this is difficult because there's a lot of negativity going around. There are a lot of things that there's a lot of content you're going to consume that is going to hold you back from moving forward and generating income specifically right now. That's a big thing. You have to be in control to some degree of your environment and the content that you're taking in. So within this workshop, I want you to try to shift your mindset into becoming a content creator rather than a content consumer. So you are now a person who puts things out into the world instead of necessarily receiving them. And check your network. Make sure that the people around you, the people that you're exposed to every day, the information that's coming at you, the speech, everything that you hear, that you consume, every conversation you have, really check it and make sure that it aligns with your goals. I'm not telling you to like create an echo chamber, right? I'm just saying you want to be surrounded by supportive people. Accountability is huge there too. So if you can find an accountability buddy, a partner, you can ask around in this group. I think I actually set up, specifically in the Facebook group, Quit Your Job in 90 Days, I'm pretty sure there's like a mentor or some type of program where you can connect with other people. I'll look into that actually when I hop off. But in general, you want to find an accountability partner, someone who holds you accountable and you hold them accountable, right? So if you're setting these goals for income generation, who's going to hold you to that when you don't feel like doing it? Who's going to check in on you and make sure that's what you're doing? And then same thing with your network. In general, you want people who are supportive of these types of goals. You definitely don't want, as much as possible, you don't want people who are not supportive or who are like the opposite, whatever the opposite of supportive is. Anything that is detrimental to your growth is not something that you want around you, right? So really kind of just take a look at your network, get some accountability in there, get some, positive injections and your own daily affirmations. Make sure all of this is supporting your goals. Find your passion, your purpose, niche down into it, and then clearly define what you do. So when someone asks you, what are your goals in life? What's your answer? When someone asks you, what do you do? What's your answer? And do those two things align with each other, right? So I know for a lot of people, if you're still working full time and you have like a side hustle or something, those two things tend to not be, sometimes they're in alignment and sometimes they aren't. And I want you to shift through this workshop. I want you to shift into those two things being directly connected. So what are your goals and what do you do? Get really clear on what you do. And if you're kind of new to the, this process and creating a niche and defining what your passions are, that's totally fine if you can't answer the question of what do you do, but we want to get you shifted into the space where you can answer that very clearly in a way that the person asking truly understands what you do. And if it's something that they're interested in, they know how to then approach, potentially purchasing whatever your services are, right? And that should be like one sentence. Like, what do you do? I help people transition from employment to entrepreneurship. That's one sentence. I mean, you don't know exactly how that works, right? You can ask me more about it, like step by step, what does that look like? But in general, that's pretty clear. And if you are working a full-time job and say you're in retail and your answer is I'm in retail, but your goals in life have absolutely nothing to do with retail, we want to kind of shift out of that. Even if you're still, I mean, yeah, I do tons of other things. I also wash dishes. I'm also a parent. Like there are so many other things that I do, but when someone asks me what I do, my definition for that is my purpose-driven work. So that's basically where we want to be. So that is all I have for today. I'm gonna have a few different workshop activity worksheets to hand out. Again, I'm gonna jump in to see if I can re-access my MailChimp account so I can see if those emails got sent. If they did not, I will go ahead and send them. If you are not getting activities or if you haven't actually signed up for the workshop, but you're in the group or you're somewhere watching this video, I'll post the link so you can sign up for the workshop and then you'll get the emails. Otherwise, we will be back tomorrow. 27, 112, 12. Sorry, I'm looking. I have like 8 different calendars. I'm never in the right place when I'm trying to look up times. Okay, so tomorrow we are looking at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So if you are on the West Coast, that's 7 a.m. If you are not able to make the live recordings, we will always have a recording available in the Facebook group. So Quit Your Job in 90 Days. It's always going to be sitting there. It's also on YouTube for you to rewatch. And you can comment, whatever. I'll get back to it. If you want to, again, sign up for the workshop, I'll drop the link in there. And then you'll also have, my email and stuff if you want to contact me and have any questions, whatever that might be. But tomorrow, I will see you again at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And I'm super excited. We're going to dive into some pricing and offer stuff. So we'll get really specific. This is one I think if you can make a live and you have any questions on pricing or your offer, please make this, be there for this live. This is something that I'll try to get as many specific examples as I can, but to really benefit from this, you really want to be there for the live. If you know that you can't make it and you have specific questions about pricing, offers, packaging, please send them to me before and I'll or you can comment here too, and I'll incorporate that in the video for tomorrow as well. All right, hope you guys have a great day and we'll talk soon.